And I'm Kiyan.
And this is Inevitable, that podcast with an unmarked 10-year time skip. This week we watched Identified.
Written by Gerry Anderson, Sylvia Anderson, and Tony Barwick.
Directed by Gerry Anderson.
And aired on September 16th, 1970. Here we are.
Yes, back.
Once again.
We have returned to our roots. Truly, like in the truest fashion. We have low budget sets. We have hilarious costumes. We have the most 1970s filming of all time. It's Gerry Anderson's UFO.
Yeah, you know, within 1 minute of turning this episode on to watch it last night, you know, it was like, I was just telling Dylan right before we started recording, it was like smelling a smell that you haven't smelled since your childhood, and like the memories come rushing back, or like eating a food that you haven't eaten since you were like 5 years old. Finally, we've come full circle after like basically a year or more, actually, yeah, more than a year of just, you know, The Prisoner 2009, Lex, just, you know, these sort of shows extraneous to our what has become our wheelhouse. We're finally back. You know, it feels good to be back in Britain in the 1970s.
Well, we branched out, okay, and we're going to continue branching out, looking at the list of shows we have, because there is a list. There is a list for the audience out there who doesn't believe there's a list. There is an actual, like, physical in a sense that it actually exists list.
It's on Google servers.
Yeah, it belongs to Google. But looking at the list, there are definitely more. There are a lot of non-old British sci-fi shows on there. A lot of old non-British sci-fi shows, and a lot of British old non-sci-fi shows. No, actually, that last one's not true, but for now, for the next 6 months.
No, like, well, we're next 6 months, sure, let's just say that.
For the next 6 months, we're safely entrenched in the warm blanket that is Gerry Anderson's UFO.
It's going to be more than that, though, just, I guess, for anyone who didn't listen to our previous episodes or just forgot or didn't care in the first place. We're only going to be watching the first 13 episodes of this, for now.
Ish, roughly.
Yeah, roughly.
We never calculated out exactly how many it's going to be. It's just basically like however many it takes for us to get to Easter.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing for now. But we will come back. Unless we hate
Inevitable will return. I don't think we'll hate it. I liked the first episode. That's a good sign.
Yeah, after the first episode, I don't think there's any way that we would just drop this.
I mean, there is. The second episode could just suck. The second episode could be Lex quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, though. I like this first episode, too. It was a strange first episode, not going to lie. Like,
yeah, it was a very strange first episode. So much of the episode is spent just on a supersonic plane flying across the Atlantic Ocean that you would think, from that description alone, that it'd be really boring, but somehow it wasn't.
It wasn't that boring. It was just weird. Like, we'll get into it, but a lot of aspects of it were just out of the ordinary, in my opinion.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't boring, but if you described the episode solely as like 30 minutes of the 50-minute episode were just a plane flying across the Atlantic, it would sound very boring.
It wasn't that much. It was maybe like 20. And there were other things happening as that was happening as well.
And there was the undermarked 10-year time skip at the beginking of the episode.
Well, that's something I liked about the episode, is that it just throws you in. There's no explanation as to what's happening. You just sort of piece together. It's not actually that hard to piece it together, but you sort of
does the childhood's end It does the Childhood's End thing where it has a time skip that it doesn't tell you about. You can figure it out at the end of the episode.
Childhood's End told you about the time skips. It was just like, just nobody aged, so it was just, I don't know, it was just hard to put together. This one is like, you just piece this together via the dialogue, essentially.
It's pretty explicit at the end of the episode, because at the end of the episode, the guy's like, yeah, your sister disappeared 10 years ago, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
Which was at the beginning. But it's interesting, like, so as I was looking at, like, production for this, and that's another thing, too, is finally we're going to be back in, like, sort of the looking at behind-the-scenes information mode. One, because there is behind-the-scenes information, and two, because it's way more interesting than, like, I don't know, Childhood's End or something, for example. But, like, I was looking at some behind-the-scenes info, and I found that the series was, like, massively popular in Japan, so, like, I watched, like, a little bit of the first episode, the Japanese version, they dubbed it, and, like, also the Japanese intro theme, and, like, the whole, like, just throwing you into the deep end thing is completely non-existent in that version, because they just add, like, a narration that explains what's happening, and they just add, like, the intro theme has, it also has narration that just explains everything. It, like, explains the setup of the show.
Wow.
Wow. Which in some way, like, I understand that, because we'll get into the intro when it plays in the episode, which is a few minutes in, but like the intro, basically it's interspersing these scenes like from the show with like someone typing on like a typewriter of like, and what they're typing kind of corresponds to what you're seeing. Like it kind of explains it in that sense. But it's a little more cryptic than literally a voiceover explaining what's happening.
You're telling me you couldn't figure out what was happening from the typewriter going, Sea Strike, mobile underwater base that launches planes.
It wasn't that explicit.
Yeah, actually, you're right. It was more like Sea Strike, mobile underwater base. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, and I can see how like Evangelion like draws from this heavily, but in a more cryptic way with its intro. Like it kind of does the same thing, but it's just like
if you had asked me a month ago if we were gonna mention any anime at all on a podcast about Gerry Anderson's UFO, I would have been like, no, you're insane. But here we are.
This show is incredibly influential for anime. Like
yeah, I believe it.
I'd actually always heard that.
Was it this show?
Yeah,
was it this show or was it Space 1999?
It might have been both, but I had always heard that, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Because as people who've listened to this show for a while know, I'm pretty into anime, but like I'd always heard that, and I was like, yeah, whatever.
A weeb.
Yeah, basically. I'd always heard that, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, how influential could it be? And then I watched this, and I was like, okay.
I mean, this show is also heavily similar. There are elements of this that are very similar to Gerry Anderson's previous show, Thunderbirds, which was a super marionation show, which I guess is a good segue into.
Just kind of how this came to be.
Talking, right? About how this came to be.
Yeah, well, this was the first. It wasn't the first live action thing from the Gerry Anderson oeuvre, but it was the
first live action TV show.
Right. It was preceded by a movie called Doppelganger, which the more I looked up what this was, I was like, we should have watched this. But oh well.
It was also preceded by a movie called The Far Side of the Moon, I think. Well,
Journey to the Far Side of the Sun. Is that what you're talking about?
Far Side of the Sun.
That is Doppelganger. That's the same movie. It just had like two names, as like seemingly a lot of movies at the time were just known by like multiple different.
Yeah, I guess I always saw it as Journey to the Far Side of the Sun because that's what it was called here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. It's basically, I don't know too much about it, but it's basically just about like a space mission, presumably to the far side of the sun.
It's just like, what is that movie? There were two of them that like involve restarting the sun with nukes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, one of them was I think like Sunlight or Sunshine or
one
something.
One of them is Sunshine. Yeah, one of them is Sunshine, but that's not the one I wanted to reference. I wanted to reference the other one. Oh well.
As far as I know, Doppelganger is basically like it's been called a pastiche of 2001: A Space Odyssey, which, you know, might be the case. It also might just be like kind of a ripoff of 2001: A Space Odyssey. But yeah.
Yeah, like skimming the plot, earlier, skimming the plot of Doppelganger. It sounds very much like UFO.
Mm-hmm. Some of the actors, I read that a lot of the actors, or at least a handful from Doppelganger, are in UFO, and the props as well. I don't remember where I actually read that, but it was probably Wikipedia. That they reused the props for UFO, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, so much of the plot is similar. There's like, the European Space Defense Agency, Eurosec.
Mm-hmm. Which I guess got translated into Shadow. Which I read Shadow was originally going to be named UFOdo.
UFOdo is a dumb name, but Shadow is also like, Shadow sounds really cool. You're like, oh yeah, that's a cool, I guess it would be an initialism. But then when you learn what it stands for, you're like, wow, that's really dumb. It's like, and it doesn't even make sense.
It's like the sci-fi GCHQ, right? Where it's it's Supreme Headquarters Alien Defense Organization.
Like that doesn't even make grammatical sense.
Yes, it's Supreme Headquarters, Alien Defense Organization. So it's like a branch of the Supreme Headquarters.
I guess.
God, I can't wait to when we detail the plot. I can't wait to get to the scene where like Straker just info dumps what Shadow is, and he's like, now look here, Shadow is located 100 feet below the surface of a film studio.
That part of that monologue too is completely unnecessary, since that part was already shown to us visually by the fact that Colonel Freeman, Freeman,
yeah, from Dune. No, I don't know.
I was thinking of Half-Life, but
oh yeah, Gordon Freeman.
His office is in the film studio, and just like his office is just an elevator descent into the Shadow base. But anyway, we're not there yet. I was talking about the similarities to Thunderbirds. Are like Thunderbirds is also like this Earth Defense Force, EDF, that has multiple like. I can't believe I just referenced EDF. But Thunderbirds is like, they've all got, Thunderbirds 1 through 5, which all the Thunderbirds have their different purposes, like the Sky Strike and the Moon Base and Sid, It's like very reminiscent of Thunderbirds. Mm-hmm. Which I've never actually watched the original Thunderbirds, but they did a like movie remake adaptation, I don't know, like a decade ago.
Yeah, but wasn't there like a cartoon or something like that, like within the last...
Yeah, they also did like a sequel, continuation, remake cartoon. I don't know, I'm unclear exactly on its relationship to the original, but they did like a live-action Thunderbirds movie, in 2004. It didn't get very good reviews. It in fact got quite negative reviews, but that's where my Thunderbirds journey started, and mostly
ended. Well, maybe one day we'll watch Thunderbirds. I don't think it's high on that list we referenced, but it might be on there. I don't know, actually.
So Lou Grade, who you may remember from The Prisoner of ITC, was like, hey, Gerry, Sylvia, you wanna make your first live action TV show? And Gerry and Sylvia were like, yeah, all right, it'll just be like, it'll be UFO. It'll be about a group that fights UFOs. Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you put it that way,
you madman, let's do it.
When you put it that way, the premise of the show sounds incredibly generic. Like,
well, it is.
Yeah, it is.
The premise of the show is incredibly generic.
Yeah. Did you know about the why the aliens were invading beforehand? Because I did. I don't know how I knew.
I didn't.
But, like, I knew that the aliens were coming to Earth to, like, harvest organs. I think, like...
Yeah, that's a pretty insane reason for aliens to come to Earth. Like, for Gerry Anderson to come up with that, but hey... Yeah, I know, but to your question, no, I didn't know going into this that that's why they were here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that made... I think, like, perhaps the episode would have been a lot more interesting if that was the case, because, like, the final 10 minutes are dedicated to, like, solving that mystery. I already knew it, like, just dredged up from, like, 5 years ago somehow, whenever I learned it.
I feel like the final 10 minutes were more dedicated to setting up that mystery.
Setting it up, but solving, like, why the guy was... just who that guy was and, like, why he had so many organ transplants and all this. So.
Yeah. And so they made UFO.
Surprisingly, got an American guy to play the main character. Now, we actually, for once, I did my due diligence, and, I was about to come in here and be like, oh, this guy's accent is so bad, like, he's so bad at putting on an American accent. No, actually, he is American. Yep.
Yeah, it would have been awkward if you just insulted his natural accent.
We've done that multiple times.
Yeah, I know. That's why it still would have been. It would have been more awkward if we hadn't learned our lesson.
Yeah. Straker.
Straker?
Yeah.
Ed Bishop?
Edward Straker, yeah. This show has, like, it has a bit of a Stanley Kubrick thing going on where it's like the characters play characters who have the same name as them. Like, Ed Bishop plays Ed Straker.
Peter Gordeno plays Peter Carlin. Mm-hmm. I think those are the only two, actually.
Yeah, those are the only two, but still.
I read on UFOseries.com, the premier site for UFO information on the web, I guess, that in the first couple episodes produced, there's a key word there that's going to come back later, kids.
I know.
First couple episodes produced that he bleached his natural hair, but then they didn't want to, like, destroy Ed Bishop's hair by having to bleach it every 3 weeks for, like, half a year, so they gave him a wig at some point. He apparently hung on to the wig, like, pretty much until he passed away. I think Ed Bishop has passed away, 2005.
I'm looking at the cast list here. There's some Lieutenant Aishia Johnson is played by Aishia, however you pronounce that name.
I see that.
Yeah. Maybe there'll be...
Dr. Douglas Jackson's played by Vladek. Now that's a cool name. Vladek.
That'll be something for us, I think, to look out for in the up episodes, like how many actors played a character that has their name.
Yeah, so back to the production, I guess. As I foreshadowed earlier, these episodes weren't aired. Wow. These episodes weren't aired in production order. No. They were aired, in fact, completely out of production order.
Yeah, and that's pretty common, but, like, I almost said UFO, which that's another thing we're going to have to talk about as well. But, like, for UFO, the orders for the episodes are just completely, like...
insane.
Yeah, insane, screwed, just irredeemably, I don't know, like food processed or something like this, or just all mixed up.
There's also the fact that there's heavy evidence in a lot of the episodes. Apparently, we haven't watched them yet, so we don't know for sure, but apparently there's heavy evidence in later episodes that these episodes they weren't aired in chronological order.
Yes, they weren't. That's like, like you said, obviously we don't know yet, but, like, unless everyone on the internet is lying. They're not in chronological order. Some of them are even like concurrent with others. Sometimes you go like backwards and forward in the timeline. So
yeah, amazing how Lou Grade made The Prisoner, or kind of like was the producer for The Prisoner, and then just a couple of years later was like, let's make UFO, and did like the same thing on UFO with it like being produced out of chronological order, airing out of chronological order.
I know, but this one actually seems more confusingly like messed up than The Prisoner, to be honest. And as well, like The Prisoner, like it was kind of part of the show, right? That it kind of gets screwy with the timeline. For this one,
Kind of.
It was like it was part of the Prisoner experience.
The Prisoner experience.
Yes. So
like a theme park.
the Port Marion.
Imagine.
Imagine if they just put like a theme park in Port Marion or something.
A prisoner-based theme park where you could get the real prisoner experience.
Yeah, or like a prisoner escape room, right? Where it's like you have to escape the.
A prisoner escape room would actually be kind of fun, I think.
Yeah, well, it's in line with the show, so
it'd be such a niche product, though. Like it would be so niche.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, look, they're making UFO trading cards in 2020. So.
Yeah, all right. I guess you're right.
The to be fair, like probably takes a lot fewer resources and money to produce a trading card pack than an escape room. But anyway, what the hell was I? How did we get on this topic? I can't remember.
I was talking about the out of orderness and how Lou Grade was involved in both, and how that's kind of weird.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, the episode where it gets very screwy. So I think I don't think we're 100% sure yet, but my suggestion is to watch these in ATV order, the order they were originally broadcast on the ATV network in Britain.
Yeah, I think we've basically decided, because that's also the order that they're put on. I'm watching these on Amazon/IMDb TV for free. These are available for free online, so you too at home could watch along, actually, with no monetary commitment. Mm-hmm. That's the order they're on there is the original airing order, which is not the order that was used on the DVD release, which was not the order used on the VHS release, so that's cool.
No, and that's what I mean, too. There's, like, for The Prisoner, there isn't as many orders. This show has, like, over 10 different, like, ways that it was, like, ordered, I believe.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is that, like, I mentioned this off recording, that at least The Prisoner used the same airing order as, like, the DVD released order, at least initially, whereas here, UFO is, like, the very first release on VHS used a completely different order to the airing order. Mm-hmm.
I mean, if anything, I already knew this, but if anything, this just tells us that, like, this is going to be a very episodic show. Do you think it's going to have any overarching, like, storyline? Or do you think it's just...
Probably just the, like, why are the aliens harvesting human organs plotline?
Probably just that, yeah. Right. And I would assume that, like, that's just going to come to a head, or, like, it's going to be dealt with in a more direct manner in the final episode, and not really, have any...
Not really ever explained any other episode.
Or not have many... I don't think the show is going to have many, like, season-long or show-long twists or turns or anything regarding this, so... But that's fine. It's fine.
To be seen, I suppose, mm-hmm. Right? To be seen. The as-yet unseen episodes of UFO.
Oh, yeah, I'm just looking through the episode list here, and yeah, the descriptions are just, like, everything is its own thing.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm excited for the show. That about wraps up this episode, so if you'd like to email it... No, I'm just kidding.
Man, it's been so long since we've done one of those fake-out endings. It's been 84 years since we've done one of those.
I didn't even do it well either. But anyway, yeah, let's just jump into what actually happened in the episode. as we
Yeah,
typically
I mean,
do.
we gave such a bird's eye view of the production of this show, but I'm sure we're going to return to the production of this show in future episodes, especially with the fact that these aired out of order. I'm sure when we reach production episode 17 or 18, we'll talk about the production break that occurred mid-season for 6 months, because that's not really relevant at the moment, but will be when we get there production-wise. So definitely more to come on the production, but I think a bird's eye overview for this first episode is appropriate. So like you said, let's jump right in to what happened in this episode. Let me pull up my notes. Okay. My first note is, I get it, it's 1980, which I think was a reference to the fact that every 5 seconds they just flash 1980 on the screen in text for the first, 2 minutes of the episode maybe. It's right up until they finish the second opening sequence.
Yeah, I have that exact same one. Literally, okay, we get it, it's 1980.
Verbatim.
That's one of the Evangelion things I was talking about before, where it just flashes in that show, it just flashes incomprehensible text at you, but this one is just it flashes text that makes things more comprehensible, too comprehensible in a way. It's okay, it's 1980. We understand.
Well, the episode just throws you in with a cold open.
Mm-hmm. It starts out in the woods. There's just some people out in the woods investigating a crashed UFO.
Yeah.
Investigating
UFO.
something, but what is very obviously a crashed UFO.
Which we didn't even mention. We said we were going to talk about it, but I guess we'll mention it now, that everyone in the episode calls them UFOs.
I think Straker says UFO once. It seems like they're going to jump back and forth between the two, but yeah, they call them UFOs. This sparked a little bit of a discussion between me and Dylan. Do British people just say UFO? Because obviously here, we say UFO, but do British people just say UFO? We did.
If you have an answer to this question at home, email us, because we found inconclusive
data.
We found inconclusive data. We tried to look it up before the episode. We did try.
Various online dictionaries either give both pronunciations or one or the other. So we just don't know. Wiktionary, if you look up UFO, the letters UFO in Wiktionary, it just says UFO. It doesn't even, if you're an English learner and you look that word up, you're not even getting UFO on that site. Other sites only say UFO, some give both, etc.
Yeah, so. When I looked it up on the Cambridge Dictionary, they have only UFO. So like we said, inconclusive data.
We're probably just going to jump back and forth between the two. The show is definitely going to urge us to say UFO, which I've never said it that way before, but hey.
I know the amount of British content we've watched for our podcasts has probably irrevocably changed my pronunciation of some words.
Mm-hmm. I think it's irrevocably changed my vocabulary, to be honest. Maybe
that
not
too.
Pronunciation, but just the words I use.
Yeah, my entire vernacular has been just the amount of Britishisms that make their way into my daily speech and confuse the hell out of my friends.
I know what a Tesco is. I know what a goddamn Tesco Express is. That's okay, whatever. UFO.
I don't know if this is because of all of these shows that we've watched, but now, so the American pronunciation of the word privacy is, privacy, but now when I read the word in my head, I always say privacy. I don't know why, because I never used to do that. Anyway,
one of the people investigating the crashed UFO just gets owned, just gets cornered and killed, basically.
I thought they both got killed at first.
No, I didn't. Just to look ahead a bit, I didn't even realize that this guy was Peter until the very end.
Yeah, same. That's the same time I realized they both didn't get killed.
Mm-hmm. Throughout the entire episode, towards the end, actually, I should say, like, I was looking back and I was like, what the heck was that opening scene? Like, how does that connect to any of this? They kind of bring it together at the end, though.
It connects more explicitly at the end, but connects kind of more abstractly at the beginning, because the next scene is Colonel Straker meeting with, I don't know, like the defense minister, I guess. They're on their way to meet with the prime minister, and Straker's basically telling him, like, yeah, so a whole bunch of other organizations are on board now that we've, like, found UFOs. We need to protect ourselves. And Germany, the US... Hang on, I'm trying to think what other countries were on board.
It was a bunch. I don't remember exactly.
The Soviet Union, the US, France, and Germany. And Wikipedia asserts that, and I think actually a couple of the fan sites I looked at too assert that when they say Germany, they're actually referring to West Germany, because they refer to the city of Bonn, which was in West Germany, as being in, quote, Germany. So
I think that was like, you know, back when there was East and West Germany. I think when people like in the Western world said Germany, they were basically just talking about West Germany. Kind of similar to how, like, if you just say Korea, you're obviously just talking about South Korea, not North Korea. You know? Although
there is the, like, I don't know, there is a 10-year time skip, so there is the possibility that Gerry Anderson, when he was writing this, was envisioning that the Germanys would reunite.
Yeah, that's true.
At some point.
Yeah, there is like a, you know, it's 1980, but it's like it's a
sidestep to the left.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's all these there's things that I didn't even notice that we found out afterwards. Like they're driving on the right, I believe. Like things have changed in the UK, I guess.
I just finished a book that was also set in an alternate universe UK, so kind of weird that I guess I'm on this alternate universe UK streak right now. Mm-hmm. Weird.
Well,
but yeah, so that...
Yeah, I was just going to reference, like, the show is already coming out with some evocative imagery, right? Because as Straker is in the car, he is the papers for, like, the UFO defense project thing that is eventually... And by eventually, I mean in 2 minutes, going to morph into Shadow. It's like, it's in a briefcase, and the briefcase is handcuffed to Straker. So, like, it's evoking, like, this sort of nuclear power, like, imagery thing.
He also needs to, like, flip the switch to destruction disabled to open the briefcase, implying that there's just, like, a bomb attached to this briefcase that'll just destroy it if he doesn't do that.
Right. So Shadow is founded under the guise of a film studio.
Well, the car gets bombed by a UFO, and Straker's the only survivor. Yeah. Then we get the title sequence for the second time, and then Shadow is founded. Yeah, for some reason it feels like this episode does the title sequence twice, because it feels like it's after the opening, before the car scene, and after the car scene.
It doesn't play
I don't know if you noticed that.
It doesn't play the full thing the second time. I think it just has the words UFO appear on screen, which they didn't in the initial intro sequence.
Yeah.
And I guess they don't appear in the intro sequence at all, because they use that intro in every episode, I think, or at least most of them. So it's interesting. They don't actually title drop the name of the show.
There is, in this episode, on screen, a title drop, though.
Yes, it's the second intro that you're referring to. It's like, it's after Straker gets bombed, they show the name of the show on screen. Now, granted, they title drop the name of the show, like, every sentence. Like, they're saying UFO, like, every sentence, so there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Yeah. Truly, we've become the UFO.
Now I must become Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Oh, that's why that's called that. The only funny joke that Funny Guy's ever made. Or
Family Guy?
Family Guy, sorry. What was I saying? Family Guy, yeah.
The funniest Family Guy gag was when like Peter's saying something, and then like that chicken that he just has like this blood rivalry with shows up, and they just fight for like 5 minutes straight, and then he comes back and he just finishes the sentence. Like you've already forgotten what he was saying, and he just finishes the sentence.
Fantastic.
Anyway, Straker's going into his office. We get a lot of pretty like cool looking 1970s like future decor, I guess. Just sort of the bombastic like shapes, the bright primary colors, the curvature.
The curvature. Yeah. The curvature of the earth.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, Freeman shows up. He's another recurring character. He's like the second in command of Shadow. He shows up. His I guess like 50% of his character is that he just hits on every woman.
Yeah, it's like a James Bond movie. His quips are like I would expect to be in like Dr. No or Goldfinger, like at this time.
Yeah, but he's comic relief though, I guess. Like is all his attempts are like not successful or they're funny in some way.
Semi. The played. I mean, when I say I'd expect them to be in a Bond movie, it really does feel like these were directly lifted from like Ian Fleming's most recent publication, both in words and in delivery. You know, I guess Sean Connery was a little more forceful in his delivery, but they're somewhat evocative of like the more calm, more humorous Roger Moore era of Bond movies.
Yeah, and this is part of like I guess the dynamic that we're going to see play out probably between Freeman and Straker, where Straker is like he doesn't do any of this. He's no nonsense. And we see that later on too, where Freeman's like having a drink, and Straker is like they reference that Straker like doesn't drink whatsoever. Even he
yeah, that's the one where Freeman just like tries to roast Straker because Straker's like, yeah, I don't drink, self-control. And then Freeman says, like, some might say drinking takes more self-control.
He doesn't drink, but he does have that, like, just, like, liquor soda fountain in his room. Anyway, we're getting a little bit more of what's about to occur in the episode. So there's going to be a shipment of Utronics along with some VIPs. And these Utronics are basically equipment that is going to allow Shadow to drastically increase its ability to detect and deter UFOs.
Yeah, so there was an attack on I guess like a chip factory, a technology factory, I don't know, a motherboard factory, and Freeman thinks that this is a real big problem because he's like, oh no, like what about the Utronic equipment that we had there? And Straker's like, well, guess what? The Utronic equipment wasn't there. And Freeman's like, what? It got attacked by a UFO. That feels like some clarification that's necessary. But so Freeman has to go to LA, I think it is, to pick up the Utronic equipment and then fly it back safely. And Shadow has been tasked with this because of the UFO attack on the facility in the UK. They want top security on this Utronic equipment, especially since, as we find out later, the Utronic equipment is going to help them detect UFOs. And
so they employ the help of Moonbase to do this. We get some scenes on Moonbase, and Moonbase is going to be like tracking the plane, making sure it's safe.
Yeah, they have to go on yellow alert when the plane crosses the Atlantic.
You know, apparently what yellow alert entails is just like taking an extended break. Okay, not really, but it kind of felt that way. So we go to Moonbase and like a bunch of characters just go on break.
Yeah, the boss is like, okay, so we don't have to go on yellow alert till 10:45, so I'm gonna go
Until
take a break.
10:30.
Yeah, cutting it a little fine there.
So we should explain the Moonbase costumes because there are multiple different like costumes and they're all kind of I don't know, exaggeratedly in your face or something like that. Because the women are wearing these bright purple wigs.
This is a convenient time to mention the weird like sexual gaze shots in this episode, because one of them's coming up, and we actually skipped one when Freeman first arrives at Shadow headquarters, and he goes down in his elevator office. He meets this female assistant who's wearing a tight jumpsuit, and there's just a shot not only of Freeman like looking at her ass, but there is just a shot of her ass.
He's kind of checking out. He's kind of checking her out, type thing.
Yeah, which you can portray without the you can portray that with just the shot of Freeman looking at her ass without the like close up, almost full frame shot of her ass. But anyway,
and there's a little more of that stuff here on base. Like one of the characters, I'm sure she has a name, but I don't know what it is. And it's going to be, I assume it's going to be like pretty hard to differentiate some of the Moonbase characters because of their look. But like she goes into like it's like a closet with a one-way mirror because she's talking to some guy whose name I also don't know as she's doing this. But you just kind of see her changing and stuff like this. So
yeah, just the shot of someone just wearing basically underwear on screen.
Yeah. I didn't.
Not to mention later on that the like Sky Strike uniforms, like,
the skydiver, the mesh, like
yeah, the mesh tops that just like show off more skin than they're like covering.
Yeah, I wasn't too bothered by any of this stuff, to be honest. Like, it's just whatever.
I just felt like it was a weird inclusion in this TV show specifically because it doesn't really seem like it's adding or saying anything with relation to like the plot or the world that we're in, like, yeah, to me it just felt like it wasn't saying anything.
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, like there wasn't, okay, for the Freeman shot, I guess it's really underscoring how much of a perv / like, I don't know,
he's just kind of a womanizer type thing,
potential Harvey Weinstein character. Yeah. He is. But like with the lady changing on Moonbase, like, what I didn't take anything away from that I wouldn't have taken away if she wasn't changing, if she was just like in that room fully dressed, right?
It's like, I mean, this is 1970, so it's kind of in that era, like the free love stuff, or like just what is it, the whatchamacallit, like a sexual liberation type thing, and because there's actually multiple changing scenes. One of them she's in a closet, and the other one I think it's a different character, although hell if I know because they all look the same. She's just in the room, like changing, like just in the middle of the room. So,
oh, that's a different character. It's actually the exact same scene, and the only thing she changes is she pulls off her sleeves and then replaces her pants with a skirt, and then I guess she's in the off-duty uniform. Yeah. Which actually, that was the coolest thing in this whole episode, was that like you could just convert your work uniform to the off-duty uniform like that. Like, wow, so easy. Yeah. Should mention that Sylvia Anderson designed most of the costumes on this show.
And I believe, like, so this is kind of a holdout, I think, from other Gerry and Sylvia Anderson productions, where it's like every different job has a very specific and like a very recognizable uniform. And I
did like how every, like, shadow sort of machine / base / ship had their own uniform. Like, Shadow Command had a different uniform than Skydiver, had a different uniform than Moonbase, had a different uniform than that SST that Freeman was flying. Like, it was cool that they all had different uniforms, but they had, like, there were design similarities, like the patch on the left kind of chest area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so everyone who operates like a different machine has its own like a uniform type thing.
And like the only possible explanation I can think of for all the like nudity and like nudity's
It's not
lewdness,
yeah, it's not
let's
really
say
nudity.
lewdness,
It's just yeah.
is that maybe they're trying to say that they're just like more
Yeah.
comfortable
Yeah,
with that kind
exactly.
of stuff 10 years in the future.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at before.
But you don't have to make the shots so skeevy then, like I don't know. I don't know. There is an element of I'm wondering, like, was the man behind the camera like hard in his pants while he was shooting
Probably
these
not.
shots?
It's not that like it's not like it's not that gratuitous. Like it's there. It's not like overly gratuitous.
The changing scene felt overly gratuitous. Felt overly gratuitous. And maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's not. Maybe it doesn't feel that way to other people. To me, it did.
And that's all that matters.
That's that, I guess.
Screw it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I was making a joke about that, but yeah, in a way. So
I'm still unclear whether or not the skydiver. Yeah, so we explained the skydiver uniforms are like a mesh top with quite large holes. But I'm like still currently unclear whether or not the one female skydiver crew member is wearing like, if she's wearing like a skin colored something underneath that mesh, or if she's not. Like
yes, that seems to be
I
the
don't
case.
know.
It seems to be the case that she is. The male skydivers are not. They're just male nipples.
The male skydivers are free
exactly.
nipping their nips out.
Peter, that was his costume for most of the episode.
God, imagine how difficult it must be to put that mesh top on.
Yeah, I know. It's just a tangled mess when you're not wearing it. Like
there were definitely production assistants who had to untangle those mesh tops at the end of every shooting day.
You know what that reminded me of is like when you go to the grocery store. Maybe this is specific to where we are, or the U.S. or I don't know. But like sometimes when you go to the grocery store, like the weirder fruits, and I'm not talking about like apples, bananas, oranges, but like the more out there fruits kind of have like a plastic mesh thing on them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
dragon fruits. Yeah, what is that?
I don't know. Anyway, things seem to be going well. I mean, they have this plan. What's his name? Alec is going to be supervising this. Moonbase is going to be overlooking it from the moon.
And Sid...
What could possibly go wrong?
Sid, the prerequisite 70s and 80s British sci-fi TV show AI ship assistant, which really only ever happened on Blake 7. Well, actually, no, because K9 was a thing.
And also like Boss and Votan on Doctor Who. They weren't
Sid,
really assistants, but
Sid
yeah,
is
whatever.
also going to track the spaceship, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Sid's just like an almost like lunar rover-esque looking thing that just floats in space. But it's cool. They do get some interior shots of Sid, and it's obviously empty. So they're kind of actually hilarious. They're just shots of like an empty room with Sid talking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I believe what happens next is one of like Straker's subordinates like messes something up, and he reports it to Straker. I forget exactly what this was, but I think he in some way compromised the security of Shadow. Like he in some way, basically just compromised the security of Shadow. And this is where we learn more explicitly that like Shadow is underground. They're using this film studio as a cover. People think Straker is like I don't know, some sort of film mogul or something like this.
Yeah, he talks about how he goes about his day-to-day life pretending to be the owner of this film studio.
Mm-hmm. And that what's-his-face should never come to him talking about security and how hard it is.
Yeah. Like, that's what this whole exposition dump was to get to.
Yeah, or rather, I think that was like the excuse to have this exposition dump, right? Is because this guy messes up. He someone out there, I guess, now knows about Shadow, or it just has a greater clue, which prompts Straker to tell him off. Yeah.
My next note, a little bit down after this, actually, is...
Is it Shadair? Is that...
No.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit further in the episode. I didn't have a lot of notes populating this part of the episode, so we won't get to this for a little bit still, but it's these clouds give as much cover as a G-string on a stripper.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing too. Is like, they're going ham with what's his face, Alex, like characterization, where even the I was gonna say it's not even a euphemism because it doesn't like ease the saying. Like it's even what he says is sort of it's related to
sex.
Yeah, sex basically.
Alec Freeman is just a horned up.
Yeah, 24/7.
He's just horned up 24/7.
Well, so they're on the plane at this point, Alec and the rest of the people.
Like you said.
You see like a side shot of the plane. Then Shadair. Like Con Air or something.
Man, I love the hilarious, like... I missed these hilarious, like... set decoration elements, these hilarious low budget. No. That's not even a low budget thing, but it's just like so indicative of like this era.
I know. I missed everything about this, like literally every aspect of the episode. I felt like I was coming home, like after going to war or something like that. Like Lex was my PTSD. The Prisoner 2009 was like, I don't know, the first tour or something. Like. This was like the homecoming, and like we've made the reference to like low budget, but like that's just like relative. A lot of this episode didn't feel low budget whatsoever. Like all the gadgets and like the crafts that they pilot, like they all looked really good. There's a style, like the show has its own work. Yeah, no, the show definitely has its own like style and its own look too. So.
I loved the low-budget skydiver effect, which was clearly just, like, the model of the skydiver in, like, a fish tank. I mean, it looked great, but it was just... I just found it hilarious. Like, is that a fish tank? And it's, like, so obviously just a fish tank.
Yeah, you make do.
But yeah, Shadow.
That has to be like Shadow stands for something, right? So obviously, and so what does Shadair stand for?
Supreme Headquarters,
Alien Defense.
Yeah, Alien Defense, but they take the I from Alien too, and then the R can be something. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Alien Reconnaissance. They can take the I from Alien. There we go. Shadow. Anyway, so they pick up the Utronic equipment and its creator, Colonel Virginia Lake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then Freeman proceeds to copiously hit on Virginia Lake.
Right, yeah, that's pretty...
This is when he drops some actual euphemisms. When he goes, "Oh, I understand your equipment very well," and then he like gazes up and down her body and goes, "I think your equipment is fabulous." And then he's like, "Hey, you want to get dinner when we land?" And she doesn't really respond to this. In a direct affirmative, but then later when he comes in to tell them they're being chased, he goes, "Oh yeah, we have a dinner date. I'm not gonna let us get destroyed." And I'm like, wait, but she didn't agree to that, did she? Like, she didn't agree to that on screen.
Yeah, she didn't say no though, so.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Well, anyway, a UFO attacks. As you know. Oh, whoops! Getting really
as you would
close to the
expect
mic
in
there.
a show named UFO,
right? It would be weirder if there was no UFO attack. Like, everything just goes off without a hitch, right? Mm-hmm. So Moonbase picks this up, I think, first. They go on red alert. And they deploy the interceptors. This is the first, like, craft deployment. I guess you can count Shad Air, but, that doesn't count. That's just, like, that's basically a plane. So a couple interceptors head out in their interceptors.
Shocking.
The way they kind of they go down like a chute to get into the cockpit, I guess, and like I don't know, it's kind of cool. They kind of just like do this this little jump.
Yeah, the first time they do this, so not when they do it on Skydiver, when they do it on the actual interceptor base. I guess for everybody at home, if you go watch this episode, watch the guy on the left. The leftmost guy jumping into these little slides, and it becomes pretty obvious that they didn't build out entire slides. These are clearly just like cutouts into the wall that the actors just jump into as if they're jumping into a slide, because the leftmost guy, they didn't build it long enough to hide his head after he jumps in. So he jumps in and his head's just sitting there, and it's like, what?
Mm-hmm, yeah, it's just like a little compact box, I guess.
Pretty much. So they go attack the UFO unsuccessfully, and on Skydiver, Peter also gets into, I guess, like, this isn't explicitly an interceptor. I guess it's more of like a Skydiver specific interceptor, I suppose.
I think it was called the Skydiver.
Like, I thought the whole submarine was the Skydiver.
I don't know. Yeah,
I was pretty sure the whole submarine is the Skydiver, and this is just like the thing that they launch from Skydiver.
I have no idea.
Well, I guess we'll double check next week.
I'm
in the next episode.
Loading the page is taking forever to load, but Shadow Aircraft on the website shadowresearchlabs.com. So I guess we'll see in a second if the page ever decides to load. I just control F Skydiver as one word and two words and nothing showing up, so whatever. Amazing.
We'll just find out next week when we watch the next episode.
Skydiver is the entire sub, I think. Oh yeah, it's Sky 1. So Skydiver is the entire thing, and Sky 1 is the little plane.
Okay. That makes sense, I guess.
Oh yeah, that was the thing that we read before, right? Is like they call it Sky 1, but there's no indication that there's any other ones.
Right, yeah.
There's no Sky 2, essentially.
Yeah. Although in one episode, yeah. UFO series.com alleges that in one of the episodes we hear of Skydiver 3. But then in the entire rest of the show, Skydiver is just referred to as Skydiver, implying that there's only one. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, the UFO is obviously it's on Earth now. They lower the altitude and the speed of the plane to hopefully deter the attack.
Yeah, this is when they go into the cloud layer because they're like, oh, we have to go slower in the clouds, but so will the UFO. Then they get into the clouds and Freeman goes, these clouds give us much cover as a G-string on a stripper.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone just kind of looks at him like, what? There are 3 other pilots in that cockpit and they all kind of just look at Freeman like, what?
Hey, who is this guy anyway? Okay.
Yeah, wait, how'd this guy get in here? Freeman's not actually part of Shadow. He's just a guy who likes Straker, like humors.
He just hangs out with Straker.
He has no control over the plane. Like the other 3 guys are piloting it, and his stick is like completely disconnected. And he's like, "Damn it, man! Why isn't it responding to my controls?"
Yeah, he's just too much of a hassle for Straker to like get rid of or something. Just some rando off the street who like discovered Shadow's secret and is now in on this.
Yeah, well, I mean, the plot of next week's episode is literally some rando on the street finds Shadow, and then that's like the 2-sentence plot synopsis everywhere is like some pilot that like learns about UFOs and Shadow, and like his interference threatens to overturn the investigation or something, or like reveal Shadow to the world.
Well, this website has very high quality screenshots. It looks like not very high quality, but just good quality. Oh, the Shadow plane thing is called Seagull X-ray, apparently.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there are multiple Shadair planes. Another one is the C-184 Mobile Transporter Aircraft.
That's a mouthful.
It's able to transport Shadow mobiles to any place on Earth. Really? Is it able to transport them to the bottom of the Mariana Trench? Huh? Is it?
Yes, anywhere on Earth, Kiyan. If you're not paying attention, anywhere on Earth.
Oh my god, they created engine specifications. Like the turbine like type and the length and all this and the blade count.
Wow, that's in depth.
I know. And none of it is in the show.
Unless just in one episode they've just got like the blueprints sitting on the table for some reason. Yes, here's the blueprints of Shadair.
Or if they just take like 5 minutes away from the plot to just mouthful it all out.
Well, anyway, what was the name of the little ship that launches from the skydiver? Sky One.
So
Sky One lands a hit on the UFO and brings it down.
Mm-hmm. The UFO crashes underwater and it kind of it like floats to the surface.
And they go, oh my god, there's a man.
Mm-hmm. There's like someone emerges from the craft and it's humanoid. This felt like something this is where I felt the episode was getting a little strange. Like, this felt like something that would come like halfway through the season, you know? Like, they're fighting these UFOs, they don't really know what they are, and then, like, it's, you know, it's people inside them type thing. We get there's another, like, little time skip. They've taken the body in, they're gonna do some experiments and try and figure out who this is, who they are, and...
Yeah, I have a note that's like whoever was paid to play this alien did not get paid enough to wear these hard contacts in his eyes.
I know, yeah, it reminded me
that looks painful.
I know, it reminded me of like that behind-the-scenes story from Sapphire and Steel with the episode where Sapphire had to wear those black contact things, which what's her face, Joanna Lumley, described as being as thick as egg cartons, just on her eyes.
Yeah. Not only that, this guy had to keep his eyes open while that hard contact got poked with a scalpel. Mm-hmm. This actor deserves an Academy Award for his performance of Dead Alien, because in the 10 seconds he was on screen, he went through more torture than like anybody else.
Yeah, sadly enough, he's not even going to get a Britain's 10 actors slot, so...
I didn't even get the prestigious Britain's 10 actors.
Well, so they perform some tests and they find out that they have to like operate on him or something, because they find out that several of his organs and internal like structures within his body, which I guess that's what organs are, have been transplanted.
I just looked up the guy who played the alien, and this is his only acting credit.
Oh damn! Maybe he did this, and he was like, you know what? If this is what acting is, I want no part in it.
That is entirely possible, honestly. It's not even outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, the alien dies, and then the doctor's like, well, being exposed to Earth's atmosphere has, like, rapidly aged him.
Yeah, and you see that on screen, too. Like, his face looks all wrinkly.
And then, like, Straker has this line talking with Freeman where he's like, the aliens are obviously highly intelligent. And it's like, really, wow, like, building an intergalactic spacecraft, I would never have guessed that they're highly intelligent. But then he goes on to say something like, but then why would they come to Earth? A place where their the atmosphere would kill them.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably because, like, humans have organs that are compatible with this alien species.
Yeah, which they find out from testing the guy's organs. Like, part of some of his organs are human. And so Straker, like, deduces / guesses that what the aliens are coming here for is to harvest organs from humans. And then a couple minutes later, they find out that that's actually not right. No, I'm kidding. They don't know. Imagine if they just have this, like, conjecture for the whole season, and then, like, at the end, it's, like, actually not the case.
I mean, that is subverting expectations.
Well, so another thing they find out is that the guy's heart was actually taken from Peter's sister, and so Straker meets with Peter to reveal that, yeah, it was his sister's heart in the dead alien, so his sister is dead.
And he's like, dang.
I know, the guy who played Peter was not a great actor, so he is literally just like, dang. They hold this funeral for Peter's sister finally, and we get like a little monologue from Straker, like, a funeral without a body. What's going to happen next? I don't know. Stay tuned to UFO.
And then it ends. Although we should underscore the, like, the meta, like, the not the meta, the what's the word I'm looking for? Existential comments he makes during this monologue where he goes, "Is this the end of the beginning? Where does the universe end? Where does it begin?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's how it ends. And then it ends.
There is also a Sky 2, Sky 3, etc. for each skydiver, parentheses diver, in the fleet. Sorry, I'm just skimming the Shadow Research Labs page here for the aircraft. Apparently that is the... I would trust this website. They seem pretty in-depth. They're drawing from, like, the novels of all things, too. So, like, yeah, apparently each skydiver has their own sky craft, designated Sky 1.
Wait, there are novels? Are they, like, actual novels, or are they like reference novels, like behind the scenes novels?
Seems like an actual novelization. They have a passage here: extract from the UFO 1 novel, Chapter 6. Seagull X-ray was a dream. It was quite a while since Alec Freeman had been at the controls of a supersonic transport, etc., etc., etc. Seems like an actual novelization of the episode.
Huh? Weird.
Yeah.
All right then.
So, what are your overall thoughts? What's your like impression of UFO?
I really liked this episode. I thought it was a good setup for the show. You know, it's setting up the overall mystery, you know, with the why are they harvesting human organs. It was an interesting episode. Like, it kept me interested. It did a good job of setting up all of the, like, shadow kind of tools in their arsenal, you know, Skydiver, Moonbase, Sid, and Shad Air, which I know it's Seagull whatever, but I'm going to call it Shad Air from now on.
Yeah, like I said before, there's multiple Shad Air planes. Like this one is the what is it? The Seagull X-ray. There's other ones as well. Like, yeah, I guess is Shad Air like its own? It's its own company, right? Like, it has to be. Like, I don't know. Also, they're not doing a very good job of, like, hiding Shadow. If they literally just have a plane with Shad Air written on the side. um,
And yeah, I enjoyed it overall. I actually went into this with semi low expectations because UFO is definitely not the most well known sci-fi series we've watched, at least here in America, of the old British
no,
sci-fi
it's
shows
not.
we've watched. So I didn't have, and maybe because of that, I didn't have a lot of expectations on what to expect. But coming out of that, I really enjoyed what we got, and I'm actually really looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah, as am I. And like something that surprised me about this episode, and probably this will be the case for the entire show, is like more so than like even the characters or like the, the like the plot beat to plot beat like plot like the show like kind of what it I guess goes for, kind of what it is like it feels like it's just building this world in a way, right? Where it's like it's very in depth, not even in depth, but like I don't know, it's just it's like more so than anything else in the episode. It felt like just the world was more fleshed out than like you get in a lot of shows, and that was kind of the focus of it. I don't know if that makes sense.
It made enough sense that I feel like I understood what you said, but I couldn't reiterate what you said back to you.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Well, it's like it's like playing an old video game or something from the 80s, and it's like, it's like not actually the story that like there's no story, but there's like a world to the game, right? You know what I mean? Like if you play like the first Mario or something, or like Super Mario Brothers, it's like there's no story to that really, but like there's definitely like a very distinct tone to everything, and a very distinct place that it's taking place in. You know what I mean? This felt kind of in that direction. Although obviously there was a story to be told here, but like, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
We'll see, though. Freeman is definitely the most not interesting, but the most entertaining character so far. And we'll have to peel back the layers of Straker, too, as the show goes on. I know some spoilers about him. I'm not going to say what, but I already know. There's a little, there's more to him, obviously, than meets the eye. But,
You've already been spoiled for this show?
Yep. Hell yeah.
How was that? I mean, okay, so I had the 10-year time skip spoiled while I was looking. I was actually looking up production information of this episode concurrently with watching the episode. I decided to optimize my workflow. And, like, while I was looking things up, it was like, there's a 10-year time skip, and I'm like, what? But I'd already passed that point in the episode, so it wasn't like, it wasn't a huge, spoiler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I spoiled some stuff.
How dare you? Oh my god, how dare you? Been so long since we've been spoiled for a show, because we couldn't get spoiled for Childhood's End, really, because we read the whole book before watching it.
Mm-hmm. Also, we looked up no behind-the-scenes information, and there wasn't any really to look up, and even if there was, we wouldn't have been inspired to do so.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, I think we'll have to. Oh yeah. I was going to go into our end segments here. So.
Yeah, it's actually what I was going to do too. I was going to say that's everything for me. So let's go into our end segments. So.
Yeah, we'll have to develop and ideate some actual segments for the show because we don't have any yet. I'm sure they usually arise naturally. So like, we'll just have to like.
Yeah, it's going to be Freeman's stupid comment of the week.
I know. Yeah, it's probably going to be something like that.
And for this week, it's going to be these clowns give as much cover as a G-string on a stripper.
Yeah.
Although I think Freeman's not actually in every episode. He's only in seven. He's only in the first half of the season episodes, the pre-production break episodes.
Yeah, so we're not going to be getting, I guess, his sexual harassment after that because, yeah, it's basically what it is. I mean, it's like it's workplace harassment essentially.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it is. Straker's the only character who's in all 26 episodes.
I know he's the Villa of UFO.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I think our segments will arise a little more naturally after we've seen the second episode and we have a little more of an idea of what kind of things are going to be possibly recurring in the show. Mm-hmm. It's hard to predict from episode one, it's hard to predict from one episode what's going to be, like I said, recurring on the show, even if it's just little thematic things or little character moments. Like, it's really hard to predict, especially because we've watched so many shows where episode one is like a complete different thing than the rest of the show because it was the pilot. I'm looking at you, Firefly.
Or just Doctor Who.
Doctor Who. Even Blake Seven. The first 2 episodes of Blake Seven are so far removed from the next 50.
Yeah.
So, I think we'll be a little more informed on what segments to do next week. But there is at least one segment that we always do, that we have been doing since Zenith, and that is Britain's 10 actors. A name which has every episode we do this has become increasingly inaccurate.
Yeah, for those unfortunately not in the know, the name from the segment comes from the fact that, I don't know, just a lot of shows from Britain in this era just share actors who are like, wow, there's only 10 actors in Britain type thing. So obviously not true. Our main character in the show isn't even British, so there you go.
Yeah, that's Ed Bishop, who I looked up. He plays Straker. Apparently Ed Bishop served in the U.S. Army and worked as a disc jockey on Armed Forces Radio. Okay.
Huh.
Anyway, he was actually in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, damn.
Funnily enough. He passed away in 2005, but he was in a couple things. He was in the Highlander TV series before that. A show called Out of Time, which I've heard of, but couldn't describe to you at all. The Man from Moscow. Picking some things that seemed like he had long-running roles on the Kenny Everett television show, Cocky's Children. He was in an episode of Philip Marlowe, Private Eye, the TV show, The Baker Street Boys, a TV show called Whoops Apocalypse, Breakaway, a TV movie documentary called Dylan. That's weird. He's actually got a lot of credits here. Obviously, Invasion UFO. We didn't even mention Invasion UFO is a movie edit that takes scenes from the first 4 episodes of the TV show and edits them into a feature-length movie.
I didn't know about that.
We'll talk about it in a brief second because we have an email from Steven Schinder that mentions it because it's part of how he discovered the show UFO. Anyway, Ed Bishop was also in The Saint, and that's about it. Those are the big things. And Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. I can't believe I didn't mention that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where he met Gerry Anderson.
Well, we also have George Sewell playing Freeman. He's a pretty prolific actor, it looks like. Over 100 credits. Let's see. He was in Londoners, Jury Room, Red Cap, The Power Game. Just reading off what looked to be big roles for him. What the Wednesday Play thing. Oh, Zed Cars. He's a recurring character on Zed Cars. Spindo. Dixon of Dock Green. Obviously UFO. Paul Temple. I've never heard of that before. Special Branch. There's that mini-series of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which is based on a book. Andy...
Yeah, it's based on a John le Carre book.
Yeah, Andy Robson, whatever. He played Ratcliffe in Remembrance of the Daleks. I remember almost nothing of Remembrance of the Daleks, ironically. Home James, I don't know what that is. The Detectives, He was in Casualty in 2006 and The Bill also around that era as well, and Doctors. And yeah, he died in like 2007, it looks like.
Yeah. So I also looked up Wanda Ventham, who played Colonel Virginia Lake. She played Sherlock's mom in Sherlock.
Wow.
Yeah, she's still alive, as far as I know, actually.
Huh.
And she's acted as recently as 2020. So,
Oh, damn.
yeah, so Holby City, Father Brown, Sherlock, Midsummer Murders, a lot of big British shows. Casualty. Excuse me. Doctor Who. She was in Time and the Rani and Image of the Fendal. So that's wild. Oh, and The Faceless Ones. Wow. She was in 3 serials of Doctor Who. Is that a record?
A record of what?
Most serials by a single character who's not the Doctor or a companion? By a single actor or actress who's not the Doctor? Like the most characters played by a single actor or actress on Doctor
Nicholas
Who.
Briggs, like...
Yeah, but he never appears as him, he never appears visually. He just voices characters. So I'm not really counting that.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Especially
okay.
since like what? I mean, what? Like every Dalek he voices also I consider as like the same character,
Yeah, I don't know about that.
It's kind of the same thing,
I don't know about that.
Emmerdale Farm, Softly Task Force, Dial M for Murder, the Lotus Eaters. All of these characters, by the way, too, are in like the Italian the movie edits of they edited some of these episodes together into movies in Italy.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, Zed Cars, the Caesars, ITV Play of the Week. Man, she's been a secret agent.
Oh, what? Well, she
was
prisoner?
a secret agent. No.
Okay.
She was in the Avengers, though. Actually, was she in The Prisoner? Let me scroll up here to 1969.
If you were in Secret Agent, there's like a good chance you were in The Prisoner.
Oh, she was. She was a computer attendant in It's Your Funeral.
Oh, my God.
The Avengers. Man, she's been in like every big British show that's ever been made. Yeah, okay, I've reached the end of her acting career back when it started in 1956.
All right, well,
if I was Russell T Davies, I would be bringing back Wanda Ventham for another turn on Doctor Who. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, hell, they brought back Alpha Centauri with the original actor, so why the hell not? Anyway, someone who doesn't have a very prolific acting career is Peter Gordino, who played Peter. The reason he doesn't have a very prolific acting career is that I'm assuming, based on his credits here on IMDb, that he's actually a dancer and choreographer, not really an actor. Though he does have 14 acting credits, including ones in Zodiac, The Dick Emery Show, The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, The Urge to Kill, and a few others. He also has just 12 additional crew credits as like a choreographer or a dancer. And then he played himself a lot on various things as well for some reason. So, yeah, that's him.
Nice. Well, we have 2 emails from Steven to read. One, how I discovered UFO. Hey guys, here's a funny story of how I found out about Gerry Anderson's UFO. Last summer, me and my dad launched our podcast Yes Shift around the time the new Yes album, The Quest, was announced. They began marketing by releasing the first track off the album, The Ice Bridge. Me and my dad were really into the song, but then people online noticed that it was similar to a Francis Monkman instrumental track titled Dawn of an Era from his 1978 album of library music entitled Energism. That track was also used at the beginning of Invasion UFO, a 1980 compilation film made up of scenes of the UFO episodes identified Computer Affair, Reflections in the Water, Confetti Check, A-OK, The Man Who Came Back, and ESP. So there was some controversy and discourse in the Yes fandom, but it was soon revealed what had happened. Yes keyboardist Jeff Downs was reworking music from what he thought was his own music when he rediscovered it 40-odd years later. Back in 1977, the library music company Bruton Music had circulated Monkman's work, and it ended up on one of Downs' tapes in error and unlabeled. Downs and Monkman met up Met up about to talk about what happened with the Yes song. Monkman liked the vocals and things that were added, and he ended up getting a writing credit for the Ice Bridge, so that was kind of a wild time in the Yes fandom. Monkman just making, like, insane residuals off a random piece he published 40 years ago. But anyway, 50 years almost. Finally got around to watching Invasion UFO, was kind of disappointed that Dawn of an Era was cut short in the beginning and not played in full. The rest of the music in the film is pretty bland, as are the scenes and much of the acting. I found it pretty boring and uninteresting, save for the intro music and a bit of the dialogue at the end. Really hoping that this is not reflective of the actual quality of the TV show and that this is just an editing problem. The idea of compiling scenes from different episodes as a film actually sounds nowhere near as sensical as a compilation album. The DVD trailer for this compilation film is much better than the film itself. I'll check out the actual show and see if it's any better. Cheers, Steven. Which he followed up 3 days later with UFO identified. Hey guys, it's been a few nights since I watched that compilation film I mentioned. I vaguely recognized certain moments when watching the first episode tonight. I criticized some of the music, but I actually admired some of the drumming in the opening action sequence. However, the shots that were clearly trying to appeal to the male gaze were very eye-rolly. Also think it's weird how much they flashed the year 1980 on the screen. I also kept thinking of K9 whenever they said affirmative. Also, is it just me, or is the shadow plane an eyesore because of its bent down front? The narration at the end sounded like it was trying to be philosophical, but it was honestly hard for me to take seriously. Overall, I found the episode to be okay at best. Kind of strange. Felt like it could have been more tightly edited down to half the runtime. Wondering if this is as good as it gets, but I guess we'll see. Cheers, Steven. The bent down front of the plane, I'm pretty sure, was also only when it was landing and taking off, because it's a supersonic plane, and that's exactly what the Concorde and the Tupolev Tu-144 did, because when you have that long of a front nose cone that's that pointy to go at supersonic speed, you can't see over it to land when you're trying to land because of the angle you land at. So the solution was to just bend it when you land. So I'm pretty sure we have shots of Shad Air, like,
yeah,
when the nose is up and it looks like a regular plane. So yeah, that's just a thing that supersonic planes do when they land, just because it's the easiest solution to the we can't see over the long as hell
I'll put
front.
the Shadow Aircraft page in the description, obviously, so that'll be there, or the notes rather. So if anyone wants, because they have a lot of screenshots of like that plane and like all the other ones we see in the episode and ones we see don't see in the episode and see later. So.
According to IMDb reviews, this is not as good as it gets, Steven. According to IMDb ratings, the best episode of this show, I think, is Time Lash, actually. Oh yeah,
this has an episode called Time Lash, similar to Doctor Who. So,
yeah, Time Lash Time Lash is the highest rated episode of the show on IMDb with an 8.2.
Yes.
For comparison, Identified has a 7.4.
Yeah, so our go-to website for like information about these old shows, Anorak Zone, does have a UFO like section, but it's not really that detailed. It's basically just like an episode ranking with like each episode has like a little paragraph of why he ranked it in that position. And so I'll put that in the notes as well, but like yeah, it'll be interesting, I guess, to see which ones he thought were good and which weren't.
Yeah, I'll also link to the two. I've got two UFO fan sites open that I'm looking at. One is shadowlibrary.org that has a really interesting and pretty in-depth exploration into the timeline of the show using like on-screen dates, which only appear, I think, in 4 episodes. As well as certain like references to events that happen in those episodes and around and outside of them, to try and formulate like a whole timeline. That site also indicates that there are 84 UFOs that are encountered in the series. And on the site, there's a whole bunch of other stuff on the episodes, the library. There's a forum on here. Freaking okay. Sure.
It's an old.
There's also episode transcriptions on this site. So anyway, I'll link this site. I'll also link the other one, UFO series. Both of them are pretty in-depth. Wow. Shadow Library has like every character who appears in the episode, down to even the side background characters, and then any notes on like any other episodes that they appeared in. Like Lieutenant Ken Matthews, character deceased, but also appears in episode Computer Affair. Wow, this is really in depth. Yeah, okay, I'll link these on the show notes.
Well,
In the show notes, on the show notes. What am I saying? In the show notes.
Apparently, this is a show that you can do that kind of stuff with. I mean, like, from the characters to even going to what we were saying before, like, each craft has its own specifications, and like they came up with like all the details of everything. Like, so this is kind of a show that goes that maybe inspires people to go to those lengths. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't do the same thing for Blake 7, right? As like you couldn't, like, obviously Blake 7 is like further removed from modern society. So like obviously you look at the ships like the Liberator and stuff like that, and you can't. There's not that information out there, like the side characters and things as well, and stuff like this. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if what I said just made no sense whatsoever, but yeah, I don't know.
I'll figure it out later when I re-listen to the episode for to edit it.
I guess it's like this is a show that is itself seemingly, even after just watching one episode, so detailed that like it makes sense that there are fans out there, like the people who've created these websites, who are able and willing and want to go into the detail of like going through every background character, or going through the dates, or going through the specifications of every ship type thing.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Well, on that note, if you're a fan out there and you want to email us about specifications and random side characters on UFO, you can email us at thedoctor@decoratevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on UFOs, and Identified. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us anywhere podcasts are found at Inevitable, a classic sci-fi podcast. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor, like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next time, since we're going in the ATV order here, it looks like we're going to be watching Exposed, I think. Let me just make sure. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, Exposed. But until then, the end.